Welcome to today's episode. We have another special guest today. We have Benito. Benito, why don't you give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, my name is Benito Prats. I'm with Coldwell Banker Realty. I'm a realtor here in Miami, and thanks a lot for inviting me.
No, of course, of course. Just obviously before we get into, just like to kind of get an introduction as to what you did prior to getting into real estate, and I guess your story of getting into real estate. So how'd that come about?
Yeah, well, I've been in sales pretty much all my life and all my professional life. I'm originally from Maryland. My parents are Cuban, but we're one of the few that ended up in Maryland.
Okay.
And there I got into sales originally in real estate with a new home builder called Toll Brothers. I was doing that while I was in school, and it was something like more transitional to just make money. But I learned that I had a real knack for sales, and it was a good opportunity for me to learn a lot more about real estate. So I ended up becoming their youngest sales manager in the real estate office there, and just working directly with a builder in Maryland. You didn't have to have a real estate license.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool, pretty easy, and I did that for a long time, and then eventually I got out of real estate in about 2006, and I had a good opportunity with a friend of mine to move to Miami. He was living here, and he said, "Hey, you want to come check it out?" And I was in Maryland in the cold, so I said, "Sure." And I got into sales with Enterprise Rent a Car there. Did that for about 13 years or so, and like I said, I've been in sales ever since. So.
Okay. And what made you transition into to real estate from enterprise?
So from Enterprise, I left them. I did that for about 13 years and it ran its course. It was a great company, but the hours were long and I was starting a family, had a little baby, so I wanted to look for something with a little bit more work-life balance. And I ended up finding a job with a company that did mortgage loans. I'm sorry, not mortgage loans, auto loans. So the auto loan industry is pretty competitive, and I work for one bank that specialized in subprime loans. And I was there for a while. Unfortunately, I was the last one in, and then COVID hit, so I was the first one out.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously COVID was a pretty crazy time, especially for the mortgages and as a realtor. I mean, what was your experience? Obviously, getting into the business during COVID. I mean, I guess uh, did you kind of just fall into the fire and then just kind of got going, or what was your way of picking up business? Because obviously, it's not like there was much interaction going on. Obviously, a good time to get in, but also probably a tough time to get business as well.
Yeah, so I once I got my real estate license, and it was great because I could do everything from home, from the test to the classes and everything,
Okay.
because of COVID. So I didn't leave my office, and I did everything. Once I got my real estate license, I was like, great, but now what? Like you said, like
Yeah.
how do you get the business? So I knew that there was a friend of a friend who was somewhat connected to the real estate industry, and I just went to go meet with him, and I ended up learning that he also had a brokerage, and I ended up just working with his brokerage. And at the beginning, it was just a lot of listening to his experience and what he suggested. He had a lot of real estate coaching that he was going through, and he just basically plugged me into software and things that I had to do, and basically I just got on the phone and started cold calling. That was my number one thing, was cold calling. Not
Everybody's
only,
favorite.
yeah, but not only expireds, not only the traditional things, but just cold calling random addresses in areas that I wanted to target. And at the time, it was a pretty easy script because of where we were in the market. It was like, hey, calling somebody and saying, hey, did you know that your house is worth more than than you probably think? And a lot of people would be intrigued by that because they would have an idea of what their home was worth. And at that time, because it was COVID and there was lines for open houses and people were getting outbid by $100,000 or
Yeah,
more,
it was a crazy
um,
time.
their house was worth indeed a lot more than they thought, and a lot of times worth a lot more than I thought. So that was a pretty easy script and a great way to get me in through the door. And then from there, you get business from them, you get referrals, and then people around me, my family and friends, no longer feel like a guinea pig, and they want
Yeah,
to work with me as well.
that's good.
Because that was a tough thing, is I thought I would get a real estate license, and my friends and family would just be lining up at the door and saying, "Finally, you're here to save me and do your real estate deals with me." But that's not the case because nobody really wants to be the first one with somebody that's brand new,
No,
you
of
know.
course, yeah.
So it gave me that street cred to be able to do business with other people, and that was a great way to get kickstarted and do business.
Okay. And well, I mean, just kind of, 5 years later, obviously, COVID was, 2020, 2021, 2022 was a hotbed. Have you had any return clients that, I mean, maybe purchased or kind of maybe bit off a little more that they can chew, or maybe their properties not obviously worth as much, trying to leave or trying to get some equity out, or obviously right now in the way interest rates are and the way things have been, people are coming into a little bit more debt. Have you seen like I said, anybody that's come back to you that's tried to list that maybe the numbers are a little less than what they thought?
Yeah, I think I definitely had somebody recently. They bought a house, I think in 23, and then they wanted to sell it within like 8 months in 24. And their idea of what they needed to get for the house in order to move up to the next house was probably about 100,000 under what they were really going to get for the home. So that was a little tough because we had to kind of educate them on what the house was worth, what their house was worth, and then show them what else was on the market. But at the end of the day, all it was just time, just educating them on just waiting a little bit longer, doing these couple things that they had to do, and eventually they were able to get the number that they wanted for their house.
Okay. And then, just in regards for your business now, do you see yourself as more heavy on the listing side or the buyer side, or are you more 50-50?
I'm definitely 50-50. I've always like, I haven't even tried to do that. I don't know how it's happened, but every time I look at my numbers year over year, it always ends up being like almost exactly 50-50.
Okay. And then just with your listings, have you, I'm assuming they're probably, are they sitting a little bit longer, or is there something that you're doing to get them off the market as, under contract as quickly as possible?
It's funny, lately, even though days on market have gone up recently, especially in December, they were up a lot. Um, for me recently, I've been lucky, or maybe it's a part of the process, but the days on market have been pretty much steady, if not a little bit less recently. And I think it comes down to a lot of factors. One is educating the seller on what their house's value is, but not just value, because value is really subjective. Like I can say the value is something, somebody else can say the value
Yeah.
is something. At the end of the day, the value is what somebody's willing to pay for your house. But just educating them on the process and the strategies of how you can price your house, and then letting them decide. That's one thing that I learned a long time ago. Is you just give people options, you educate them, and then they're the ones that can decide what they want to do. I have my idea of what I want to do, and it's probably usually going to be to sell the house as quickly as possible. But sometimes that's not always best for the client. So really, you have to find out what their needs are and then identify that.
Okay.
So that's important, pricing strategy. And then from there, what else I do is I get on the phone. Like that cold calling muscle is still there. So now I got a listing. I can call those people around the area, let them know that their neighbor's going to be having an open house, and to excuse the traffic or the craziness that's going on. But now I'm informing and letting a lot of more people know about what's going on in the market, that that house is hitting the market. They're probably not going to buy it, and they might even end up being a future client. But also, what it's doing is driving more traffic to those websites like Zillow and Realtor.com, and it's just making that house more and more popular. And those algorithms are set up so that if more people are looking at it, they're just going to be pushed to the top. So my idea is just to get as many people to look at the property as possible, and then when it's time to come in and see the property, we're going to have a lot of showings. Maybe everybody at the property is not going to be able to buy it, but those people are at least going to look around, and the guy that does want to buy it is going to say maybe there's a little bit more urgency there and have to kind of make an offer sooner rather than later. So all those things are just work in conjunction. I don't know which one works, but they seem to all work together.
Okay. And then just in regards to your buyers, are you seeing a lot more, or at least being able to negotiate a lot more for seller contribution, or do you see your buyers utilizing assistance programs or anything in particular? Because I know obviously usually during COVID, I know it was a lot harder to get obviously a seller contribution. Now, and my personal experience, because now we have certain programs like the 2-1, the 1-1, and all the buy downs. And then again, fortunately for yourself, properties aren't sitting on the market as long, but not always the case. Are you able to negotiate a little more seller contribution for the buyers and entice people to at least try to buy? Or I guess what's your experience right now?
Yeah, so as far as programs, like I haven't really done too many programs, but I have had involvement with some buyers using hometown heroes, things
Hmm.
like that. What we do focus on and what I do try to educate my buyers on is that this is a great market to get seller contributions, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Like a lot of people think they just come in and they offer less price and then they can start negotiating there. A lot of times I say, let's not focus as much on the price, but let's focus on the contribution. So maybe we'll offer, instead of taking 20,000 off the price, we'll offer full ask, and we'll ask for $20,000 contribution off at the closing. And what's great about that is that a lot of buyers don't realize if you're putting 20% down on a loan, you get that reduction in price. That's only 20 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
But if you get the credit at closing, you get that full benefit. So now you're getting the full dollar for dollar value at closing. And to a lot of people that are buying homes, the payment delta isn't as impactful as the cash that they have to bring to the table.
No, of course. And then just in regards for, again, interest rates, big topic right now. A lot of people on the fence. What's your message to people that are, hesitant to purchase or kind of putting their feet in the water, but they're still a little bit hesitant in regards to pulling the trigger? And I guess your forecast for, the upcoming 2025 year.
Yeah. So again, this is all part of the conversation with the client, getting to the why. Why are you looking to buy a home? And that usually determines on what they should do. Because everybody that I've seen, no matter what it is, whether it be real estate, stocks, crypto, if you're trying to time the market, it's usually not going to end up
Yeah.
being the best result. And if it does, it's just going to be a result of luck, if anything else. So really, it comes down to, why do you want to sell your house? Why do you want to buy the next house? Is it for your family? Is it because you're relocating? There's a lot of different reasons that people need a home. And at the end of the day, home is a great investment. And we talk in real estate all the time about how much of an investment it is, an investment, investment, investment. But at the end of the day, it's your home. It's where you're going to live. It's where you're going to raise your family. So investment's important, but that's going to come secondary to everything else. So I think everybody should kind of try to really sit back and think of the reason that they want to do the purchase. And the interest rate and stuff is important, and I'm not going to downplay it. I'm not the marry the
Yeah.
house and
Date
date
the
the
rate.
rate
Yeah.
guy, because I think that kind of minimizes people's true financial decisions. But at the same time, those rates are temporary, and it's really important just to decide what's motivating you. If you can wait, great. Then let's wait. Let's stay in touch. Let me educate you on the market. But if you really need a house today, then let's go and out and get it.
Okay. And then, one thing, when it comes to, I guess, the properties that you're putting under contract, do you do or do you have any condos, or do you do a lot of condos, or is it more single family townhouses?
Mostly single family, but I have done condos.
Okay. And then just, with the new law that passed in 2025, have you seen, I mean, I know there's a ton of condos on the market. Do you see people slowly graduating towards buying condos, or, obviously HOAs are going climbing up a little bit, but I guess what's kind of your experience right now?
Yeah, so a lot of people think, if they're buying based on price, that, a condo might be a great idea. And I think when I sit down and I educate buyers, some of them decide that for them, it probably isn't as good of an idea, because when you look at the price and then what you're going to pay in HOA fees and all the other fees, the numbers almost start equaling what you could get for a bigger single family home. But I do see other buyers that want condos because of their lifestyle and different choices like that as well. So, I'm seeing people that are gravitating more towards price. And then sometimes it'll take them the condo route, but sometimes after a little bit of a conversation and really finding out what they want, we go back towards a single family route. And then I see other people that can afford to buy anything and they still want to go the condo route because of lifestyle and different things like that. So there's benefits to each. It's just a matter of really finding out what it is. But I've seen more people still kind of staying closer to the single family route. But sometimes we find condos work as well.
No, I know one of my buddies actually just got hit with one of those $20,000 assessments for that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of been a big topic. Especially with insurances has been an issue, reserves has been an issue. I mean, both of us have come into issues this last year, so we'll see what happens this year. And obviously, you've been doing very well these last few years. Obviously, jumping into business. I always like to hear a success story that you have, one that's stuck with you, that either just something that's always stuck out in your head, of you always remember.
I'll always remember my first listing, and it was a result of a cold call. He was a very tough-willed Cuban man, which luckily I was used to dealing with. Being a son of a tough Cuban guy and grandfather, and so I was able to communicate pretty well with him. But he basically was a no BS kind of guy, and he said, this is what I want for my house. And it was like a crazy number, like in the middle of Coral Terrace, not even Shenley Park, like outside of it. And I remember he said, I want 750,000 for my house. And I was looking it up on Zillow at the time, and it was like 600,000. And I was like, there's no way. And I was talking to other people that were more seasoned than I was, and they're like, there's no way you're ever going to get that number. That's crazy. But I went out and met with the guy anyway. And I talked to him, and He signed the listing agreement on the spot. So, I'm so excited. I got a listing agreement signed for 750, but then he talks me into 775
Okay.
at the consultation. So now everybody's just laughing at me like you're taking an overpriced listing, making it even more overpriced. And I did the process and everything and had the first open house, and like nobody showed up. It was
Yeah.
crickets. But one guy showed up, came in, loved the house, fell in love with it, and gave a full price offer.
Oh wow.
And my client said, "That's great, but you can do better." So, I was really at that point like dejected. Like I got a number that I never thought I could get. Now this guy wants even more. And I was like, what do I do? I didn't know what to do. And luckily, somebody else came in behind that offer and made an offer as well. So I was able to have that conversation with both the buyers and kind of leverage one offer against the other and get them to come up in price. And the buyer ended up offering what my client wanted for his house. And then we went through appraisal. The house didn't appraise anywhere near what it was supposed to appraise for, but luckily in the appraisal contingency that the buyer put, they put 150K delta. Like it only had to
Yeah.
appraise for 650, and it was 800 on the sale price, and it appraised for 650 on the nose. So a lot of things went right, and we got a record number for the house. And that guy now loves me. He's a client forever, and we were able to set a record price in that community. So it was pretty interesting.
That is 150. That's $150,000 difference. Wow. I wonder, like, kind of going back on my question, how he's feeling about that purchase. 150,000 over. I mean, have you looked at it? Is that property worth that now, or is you think?
Yeah, so this was when I first started. It was in 2021. So we're in 2025 now. 4 years later, it's definitely gone up in value. And it's set a new mark for that community. So that became a new comp, and other homes sold in that area based on that house. So yeah, even that guy that made that crazy offer and paid 150K above appraisal today is he's renting the property out, making a ton of money out of it. But then also, if he went to go sell it today, he could make even more off of
Well,
it.
you said it was Coral Terrace.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where I live. You're probably one of the reasons why my house was probably 50,000 more than it should have been, but
there
it
you
is
go.
what
You're
it
welcome.
is. But just obviously looking into the forecast 2025 and the next few years, just I always like to see where people are. What's kind of what do you see happening in the market? In the next quarter, kind of going into the end of the year.
Yeah, so I kind of revised my thoughts on what was going to happen this year based on the last Fed meeting. I thought that like everybody else thought there was going to be 6 rate cuts in 2025. We were going to be back to the market like it was before, if not even crazier than it was before. But now we're learning that the rate cuts are probably going to be more minimal, maybe a couple rate cuts in 2025. So I think you're going to see more of the same. I think we're still always in Miami going to be in an appreciating market. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to make this market dip, at least in the single family. Maybe like you were saying, the condo issues might affect that. So I think that we're still going to see a more stable market, kind of like we did in 2024. And unless anything really drastically changes, that I think that's what I would expect for the remainder of the year. Going into 26 and beyond, maybe we'll start seeing the rates coming down. But I think we're at a place where the rates, they're not crazy high. They're high based on what they were before, but they're not high based on what they've been historically. So
No, of
I think
course.
we're in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the 10-year Treasury come down. It definitely jumped up the last couple weeks. I mean, that's what we focus on. Honestly, I love hearing the rates are getting cut, but for us, as long as the 10-year Treasury is coming down, that's good on the pricing sheet and that as well. Just again, you told your success story. One of my favorite questions is being in real estate. There's always a crazy story. One that you're happy this happened, on the one side, and then you have one that you're like, I can't believe this happened. This is a one in a million thing. I guess, do you have one that kind of sticks out as well?
Um, I think that there's not a lot out there, at least not that I can really publicize. But I mean, there's every deal I do, and this is one thing that I was reflecting on. This is the beginning of my 5th year in real estate, so it's kind of like that reflecting time, and also fist pump time, because I remember when I first started, like there was a stat where like 85% of people
Yeah.
don't make it in their first 5 years of real estate. So I'm pretty proud that I'm here at year 5, and I've just learned that every deal has that one moment where it's gonna fall apart. And it's funny because it's like every deal. It could be the easiest deal in the world. It could be the hardest deal in the world, but there's always a moment where it feels like that deal is just not going to work out. So I think my job as an agent, I've learned, is just to keep cool, keeps calm. keep a level head, never get too high, never get too low. Because that's one thing that I used to do, at the beginning is, I would sign a listing agreement and I'd already start counting my commission check.
Yeah.
I would get, word from a client that they wanted to get a credit on inspection, and I'd already start crying about the deal being canceled.
Yeah.
So today I just keep it cool, I keep it calm, and I think the clients feed off of that. So if I go too high, if I go too low, then the clients are going to get different expectations. They're going to get um, sidetracked, and it's just not going to go well. So, can I think of one specific deal that was crazy? No, because I think all of them at some point have been crazy, there's been deals where I thought it was a slam dunk that it was going to appraise for the number that we were at. We were way below value, and it ends up appraising for even lower than that. And I know the house isn't worth that, and I see the comps are being used are wrong and crazy, but there's nothing you can do because you can never fight an appraisal. And that deal still went through. So there's a lot of stuff that has happened. There's deals that have canceled that I thought for sure would never cancel, and it's a slam dunk, and they haven't worked out. So I've just learned in real estate and really in anything in life is just
Yeah, you got to keep
keep it
it.
steady.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to kind of give you some of the stuff that we've experienced, in regards to just one time that a deal fell through. That's on our side. It's usually a handful, but I'll never forget. I mean, I think I've talked about it before, but it's one of my favorite stories. It wasn't my personal deal, but I was helping on getting the loan closed. I was a processor at the time, and a couple of days before closing, the bank we were working with did a credit refresh. There was I was like a K's, K's or one of those
Mm,
jewelry store inquiries.
right.
Call the client. What's this? Let us know that he was going to be proposing to his girlfriend at the time. When he takes her to the house. Obviously, everything with us is ratio based, so the numbers got to work out.
Right.
And I want to say it was a $300 or $400 monthly payment, with the ring. So his ratios were already tight, and it pushed him over the edge. So, and I think it was a 15 or $20,000 ring, so he couldn't pay it off and then bring him the money for the down payment. So he ended up having to buy the rate down, which cost him, you know, I think it was definitely high of 4 or 5 thousand, maybe a little more than that
Wow.
to get him back into qualifying numbers. But yeah, that's one. There's a handful.
Yeah.
I know Renee's got another handful as well, but that's one that I love telling. It's one that I'll never forget. But
Right.
that's kind of one of the ones that we always.
And moral of that story is if you're gonna buy a ring before closing, make sure it's a doorbell.
Yeah, exactly. Or just
Those are a little cheaper.
or just do it after closing.
Right.
Just nothing during closing. We always try to.
Yeah.
Well, we always try to preach it, and unfortunately, I don't know how many times I've. Well, it's not mine. I co-signed for it. It's like you're co-signing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that you talked about was educating. I think for us on our end, that's one of the biggest things that we do because there's a lot when it comes to financing. Buyers, I mean, buyers aren't always 100% upfront, and they kind of do what they want to do sometimes, and makes deals either much more difficult or it can even kill the deal from
Yeah.
time to time, which is again, one of the things that we always try to promote is education and being as upfront as possible. So I mean, I know you said that's one of the biggest things that you focus on. Definitely one of the things that we focus on.
Yeah.
It definitely helps the transactions run very smoothly as well.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't know what you don't know.
oh yeah, and it's bad, in the middle of the transaction when it's like, oh, I didn't know that was important. It's like, oh, well, I had $20,000. I just deposited it, and it's like,
Right.
you can't do that. Like,
And it's so tough because we do this every single day. So stuff that's just intuitive to us, to other people, they don't have any idea.
no, yeah,
So
yeah, okay, that's definitely another language.
yeah.
But education is the most important, and again, for us, it's just trying to make it as streamlined as possible. But again, education and being on top of the client is definitely the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just one of the questions that I always have in here as well. Obviously, you're living in Miami, you've been here for a long time. There's kind of like a war going on in the office, and just all the people we ask uh, during lunch or even breakfast. Croqueta and empanada is always a choice.
Yeah.
I'm a croqueta guy. He's an empanada guy. I've gone at it with my friends, which is better.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of I guess what's your choice when it comes to going to the bakery and getting
Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, croquetas are for the morning,
Okay.
and empanadas are for the PM.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, look at me. I like both, obviously. So, but I don't discriminate. But it's just, AM or PM. It depends on when you get it.
Okay. I mean, I can
Yeah.
respect that. Yeah. I mean, I have people that won't touch a croqueta, and I have people that they won't do an empanada. But
Yeah.
this is that's a
Unfortunately,
fair.
I've not found many food items that I will not touch.
But just in regards to, is there anything else, anything else with, on our end that you have any questions on, or anything else that you'd like to share, or anything in particular that you'd like to talk about as well?
No, I mean, what's your outlook on the market? What do you think's gonna happen in 2025?
I mean, I kind of think, what you said is accurate. I think, when it comes to, buying, the unfortunate thing is, obviously rates aren't as, the highest they've been. They're still, still lower than statistical average.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's still where they are. It pushes a lot of buyers out of the market just in regards to affordability. I'm hoping, obviously we have the new president coming in. One of the things that I always preach is that, a lot of the market is, what's going on with the 10-year treasury and things like that, and that affect the 10-year treasury are based off of speculation
Right.
for what's going to be happening. I'd like to see once, the new president takes office, once his policies, start being implemented and the market starts reacting, you know, obviously we're hoping that, it benefits. I'd like to see the 10-year treasury come down. I think that's the case. In regards to rate cuts, again, I truly, they're good. They help us, but to be honest with you, the last two rate cuts, we've seen the interest rates go up. So
Right.
I really haven't focused on the rate cuts. I just focus on, the information that affects the 10-year treasury, which is, the jobs report, the ADP report. Um, we look at uh, unemployment and things like that. So, as long as, and if, obviously inflation, that's, kind of the
Hmm.
biggest trigger. So, I hope, I believe we're trending in the right direction. CPI and all those numbers, continue to go down. But with that being said, I 100% agree with you. Miami, specifically South Florida, is an appreciating market. You have people from up Maryland coming down, up north, out west, South Central, America, Europe coming. So I mean, I think the demand's still going to be there. I just like to be able to see the rates come down a little bit, which I do think they will. I think it's going to take a couple months, maybe mid-time into the year for us to be, a little bit, maybe a point and a half. I'd love to see that.
Hmm.
But obviously the other goal too is with those rates coming down. I think refinances and lines of credit will be a major tool because again, right now we're sitting the highest debt in the country, a lot of credit card debt. So I personally think people who own houses will be able to use that to, if they could sell and a clean slate, or they can use some equity to kind of, again, give themselves a clean slate and start over. But again, I think Miami, South Florida, were a great market. Again, it's not perfect. I don't think we're ever going to see twos again, threes
Right.
again. But just kind of getting into the high fours, fives. I think will put a lot of buyers back on the market, and unfortunately, it's a good thing, but it's also a lot of people who decided to wait. Kind of puts them in a bad situation too because you're going up against a lot more buyers, and kind of puts the sellers back in the control center.
Right. That's if waiting even pays off.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you do wait, everybody else is going to be in the same
Yeah,
boat.
exactly. I mean, yeah, I mean, I have the people that say the real estate market's going to collapse, and I was
Right.
like, it's supposed to collapse in COVID, and it
Right.
kind of did the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's always funny to ask those people. So you're looking for the downfall of America, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see it. So
Yeah. I don't see it
you
either.
might see a little bit of depreciation, but I mean, to be honest, I don't think in majority of cases that we'll see it, especially in South Florida. Maybe northern states, you might see it a little bit, but I really don't see it down here.
Yeah. And you were mentioning equity, and I do see that a lot. There's record amounts of equity in homes these days. To access equity, obviously the traditional way is to get a home equity loan or a HELOC and do those things. Are there any other non-traditional ways to access equity that you think that you've seen or?
Yeah, I mean, we do have, obviously your cash out, refinances, HELOCs. The one thing is they're making HELOCs a lot more accessible because it used to be pretty much the same way you qualify for a home mortgage with, your standard income. Sometimes appraisal, sometimes not, but pretty much the same process. They're opening it up to, a lot of non-QM products.
Okay.
So, I actually have one right now with a client. Instead of doing traditional, he's self-employed. Instead of doing taxes, we're doing a P&L program.
Okay.
So they also have, bank statement programs
Hmm.
as well. So I mean, like you're able to purchase a house with a bank statement program. Now you can take out a line of credit with a bank statement program as well. There are other ones. They're called HE loans. There's a lot of different variations of them. To me, it's something that it's a last resort kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, but basically, what those are is some of them they require income, some of them they don't require income. Basically, they take a look at the equity, they kind of weigh how much the property is going to appreciate, and then let's say you take out one of these HE loans, um, and in let's say a year you're back to where you need to be, you can cash out and pay that off. They'll take a percentage of the appreciated value. So I mean, it's basically just, I mean, I guess layman's way of putting it, it's almost like a prepayment penalty.
Right.
So that's how they're cashing out to it. Some of them, like I said, there's no income. They can go to 500 credit. So again, that's something that I would say is
Wow.
it's if you absolutely have to, you want to keep the property, but you absolutely have to do it. That's one of them. But the standard line of credit, close end seconds, and then cash out refinances are kind of the main ways that people are getting equity out.
That's awesome. That's good to know because I bet there's a lot of people out there that don't realize they can access equity in their home and maybe can't qualify the traditional way. So that's good to know there's programs out there for
Oh
those
yeah,
people
there's
to.
I mean there's always stuff coming out. Luckily since we're on the broker side, we have access to a ton of different banks. So I mean, let's say, for instance, for the same exact loan, the same exact second P&L second that I'm doing, we submitted all the documentation for it, but they require, certain things done by a CPA. This client, had a tax preparer, so we, just take it to a different bank. They allow it, and we proceed forward. So I mean that's one of the good things is again, some banks will offer the bank statement, the P&L, the all the above, and then there's certain banks that'll do maybe the bank statement, and there's certain banks that'll only do the P&L. So I mean that's one of the things that being on the broker side that we got to kind of it's kind of like a Rubik's cube. You just got to kind of
Right.
find where the client needs to be and just put them there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we see 2025 be even stronger than 2020. It's going to be hard, but I definitely think it's a big time opportunity for people looking to purchase and people who own homes to take advantage of the equity in the property as well.
Yeah, I think regardless of how crazy or busy the market gets, there's always going to be people transacting. So it's a matter of how do you position yourself to be the person that they come to when they want to transact.
Yeah, I mean, again, people like I always tell people, you could be this you can know every guideline, be the smartest person in the world, but you got to know how to deal with people,
So
and that's kind of to me is the key is just being able to guide people, let people trust you, and do the right thing, and kind of everything kind of falls into place.
yeah, yeah. My secret for that is just shut up and listen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, I think do you have anything else you got any questions on the mortgage side or?
No, I think that was my burning question. So
Okay,
that was pretty
okay.
good.
But we'll close up. I appreciate you coming on. We'll make sure his contact information is accessible. And again, looking forward to hearing more about maybe down the road, 6 months, maybe 12 months into the year, how your 2025 was. But glad to have you on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll be back for sure. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Here's to another episode of Hooked on Mortgages. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. And again, Benito's contact will be down below. And have a good one.